The Balloon Brothers. Witnessing the birth of a new age, an exciting crowd of 130,000 gathered outside the palace of Versailles, just outside Paris, France, on the afternoons of September 19, 1783. They had come to see the flight of a large hot air balloon built by two brothers. This was the moment of truth for Joseph Michel and Jacques Montgolfier. The King and Queen of France watched from the palace courtyard. The beautiful silk and paper balloon was decorated with gold designs on a blue background. With attention in the air, three animals waited in a wicker basket. Suspended beneath their balloon, and unusual passengers were a sheep, a rooster, and a duck. These animals had been chosen as part of a scientific experiment. No one was sure what would happen to people who were up in a balloon. Since ducks often fly in the sky, the brothers thought the duck would be fine. The rooster was included because it was also a bird, but who didn't fly very high. The sheep was thought to be similar as a person, since it was a mammal and lived on the ground. The brothers were anxious to learn if these animals could go up in a balloon and come down unharmed. The Montgolfiers filled their balloon with hot, smoky air, with the fire burning in a pit. Shortly after 1 p.m., the balloon was released. As the crowd looked on in wonder, it rose to a height of 460 meters. 8 minutes later, it settled back to Earth 3 to 2 kilometers away. The animals were just fine. The age of flight, long a dream of humanity, had finally dawned. The way was now clear for people to fly into the clouds, and the Montgolfiers deserved much of the credit. Two brothers with big ideas. The Montgolfier brothers were part of a large family from a small town in southern France. Their father, Pierre Montgolfier, was a successful paper manufacturer. His factories were the official supplies of sanctuary to the court of the King Louis XVI. Joseph and Etienne took over the family business in the 1770s. Their successful business left them plenty of free time to pursue other interests. In his early 40s, Joseph became intrigued with the possibility of flight. Since the 1600s, scientists had been exploring the possibility of making a lighter than aircraft that would fly, because the principle of buoyance, no one had yet figured out how to build such a vehicle. However, buoyancy was first understood by the ancient Greek mathematician Archimedes. It involves the density of an object, its weight for a given volume, compared with that from the fluid around it. Fluid in this sense, can mean either a liquid or a gas. If the density of an object is less than the fluid surrounding it, the object will experience an upward force. A cork floats because its density is less than that of water. A balloon filled with hot air rises because the heat of air balloon is less dense than the surrounding air. An object with a density greater than the fluid which it is immersed with will sink. Joseph suspected that the light gas contained within the lightweight conclusion might make flight possible. He read about such a gas, and several past researchers have reported that their experiments. Scientists had known about this mysterious gas for many years. In 1866, English chemist Henry Cavendish identified the gas as an element. He gave it the name inflammable air because it was highly explosive. French chemist antioxidant Lavoisier renamed renamed it hydrogen. Joseph filled small space-shaped paper spheres with hydrogen and released them, but his experiments were disappointing. The spheres rose just a few meters before coming back down. Hydrogen atoms are so small that they passed right through the paper into the surrounding air. Joseph looked for another way to build a flying machine. One day he noticed that shirts drying up with the smoky fire puffed upward. Like most people, he had often seen smoke rising from the chimneys. This, he concluded, was the answer: smoke. By the early 1783, the Montgolfiers began burning different materials to find ones that produced a lot of smoke. They found that the mixture of damp straw and chopped up wood worked best. It also smelled terrible, but the smoke did indeed give buoyancy to any sort of black container. The brothers concluded that smoke must contain something unknown with a lifting property. They named this marvelous substance Montgolfier gas. Of course, there is no such substance. The lifting effect was caused by the hot air itself. When the air gets heated, the molecules within it move around faster, causing air to expand and become less dense. When contained with a balloon, the lighter gas air makes a balloon rise, constructing smoke-powdered balloons. Without understanding the real science behind hot air balloons, Joseph and Etienne continued to build and test new balloons. The brothers experimented by using different materials of the envelopment, including silk, paper, and linen. As their work moved forward, they also increased the size of their balloons. The balloons rise even higher into the air. The brothers' experiment began to attract attention. A crowd filled the town square of a village in southern France on June 4th, 1783, for the test of a large balloon made of cloth lined with paper. The crowd watched in amazement as the occupied balloon soared up 2,000 meters into the sky. After a 10-minute flight, the balloon landed about 2 kilometers away. Successful test flights, such as this one, launched a balloon craze in France. A balloon rivalry. The Montgolfier balloons asked the French Academy of Sciences to officially recognize their work. The Academy withheld approval. However, it decided to wait in case someone else invented a better balloon. The Montgolfiers' chief rival was a physicist named Jacques Charel, who proposed building a hydrogen balloon. The Montgolfiers had long since given up using hydrogen in their favor of their hot air balloons, but Charles saw great possibilities in their approach. In July 1783, with the Academy approval, Charles began work on his balloon. He was assisted by two brothers, Nicolas Louis and Anne-Jean Roper, both professional engineers. The three constructed a small test balloon made of silk with rubberized surface design to keep the hydrogen from escaping. In the meantime, King Louis invited the Montgolfier brothers to Paris. He wanted them to build a dazzling balloon that would display his glory of all of France. As the court favorites, the brothers now received government funding for their work. The two teams each wanted to be the first to launch a balloon with human passengers. The race was on. Soaring into the blue. On August 27th, 1783, a large crowd gathered at a grassy area in Paris, where the Eiffel Tower now stands. They had come to witness the launch of the childless balloon. Among the onlookers were famous American Benjamin Franklin, who was serving as a U.S. ambassador to France. The balloon was relatively small, about 4 meters in diameter, with alternating red and white stripes. In the late afternoon, the unpiloted balloon was released. It rose quickly and flew northeast for less than an hour, landing 15 kilometers away in a small village. Terrified villagers attacked the strange monsters with their pitchforks. Now it was the Montgolfiers' turn to roll Paris. On September 19th, they launched their test balloon with its animal passengers at Versailles. When the animals landed safely, the time of their human trial was finally at hand. Since the flight would be very dangerous, the king felt it should be done by a pair of prisoners who had been sentenced to death. However, a science teacher, Jean-François Piltry de Rosières, and a soldier, and Marquis d'Arland volunteered. The historic flight took place on November 21st, the time of the outskirts of Paris. The balloon towered 23 meters high. It was covered with various gold designs in honor of the king and the royal family. With the Rosier and the Marquis aboard, the balloon rose in the air. 25 minutes later, it landed about 8 kilometers away, settling between the pair of windmills outside the city. The two men were hailed as heroes. Benjamin Franklin observed the historical flight. Asked by another spectator what this balloon was good for, he reportedly answered, "What good is a newborn baby?" On December 1st, just 10 days after the Montgolfiers' triumph, Jacques Charles and Nicolas Louis Roburn made the first human ascent in the hydrogen balloon, taking up the Tuileries Garden in Paris. They flew more than 2 hours, coming down in a farm about 36 kilometers away. In the following years, the Montgolfiers launched several more balloons. The brothers were honored by the French Academy for Sciences, with their father, Pierre, was made a nobleman by King Louis. The legacy of a lighter-than-air flight. The passion of the ballooning soon spread throughout Europe. It was not long, however, before the risks involved became clear. In June 1785, de Rosier and his co-pilot Pierre Romain were killed while attempting to fly across the English Channel in a balloon. Despite the risk, pioneers continued to develop balloon designs long after the balloons craze of the late 1700s had ended. In the 1800s, lighter-than-air vehicles were given ruders, motorized propellers. By the 1930s, huge airships were flying passengers back and forth across the Atlantic Ocean. The golden age of airships ended abruptly when the German airship Hindenburg caught fire and crashed while landing in New Jersey in 1937. Today, airships are mostly used for advertising and can often be seen flying above open-air stadiums during larger sporting events. Gas balloons are mostly used for gathering weather data, while hot air balloons are mostly used for recreation. Many areas hold festivals each year in which hundreds of colorful hot air balloons fill the sky. These events can make it appear as though balloon mania never ended.